And so I think that for me personally is the best way I know to stay calm in these situations is one, just expect that something's going to happen because something is going to happen. It could be little, like big, we don't know, but something's going to happen. And then just making sure that my needs are met
Yeah.
before walking into a wedding space.
Crises are something that happen at any given time. And if you've been in the event industry, there's some events that we do that just go without a hitch. And then there are also going to be other ones that are character building. So I'm super excited about today's guest. She is a super talented wedding planner. We met at an event in Houston. So she is in the Houston metropolitan area. And we're going to learn a little bit more about her. And her name is Keri Lugo. Thank you for being a yes to being on today's podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
So I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself, about what you do and what's your specialty. And then that's going to help with giving some groundwork for some of the listeners so that y'all are listening to see how this can also apply to you.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, we're a Houston based wedding planning, event planning. I used to use the word boutique, but we're
Mm,
more of a planning firm now because we are fully staffed with five other planners on our team. And then we've also extended over to the like Tampa Bay area. So, yeah, so we have a team out there. We have a team here in Houston. So we do Houston, Austin, San Antonio, and then all the surrounding areas in Tampa.
fantastic. So, how long have you been in the industry? I would be curious if you want to share that with people.
Yeah, of course. So I've had Timeless Rose events. I started in 19, just enough to figure some things out and then get hit with a pandemic that didn't allow us to do events. So that was super fun. So we had to learn and shift and navigate very quickly. I've been doing events though. I mean, gosh, it was a side gig for a long time. So I think it's been probably about 10 years now in total that I've been doing this. And then we also started a content creation branch to our business back in September. So we're rolling out some different things that we're doing.
It's exciting. And the thing is like with the event industry, there's all like, I feel like events can be very general. And I
Yeah.
feel like we can all have our footprint. There's different niches, there's different ways that we want to separate ourselves. So I would love for you to share, like, why did you decide to do weddings? Because, like, there are all types of different types of events.
Yes, I have to attribute this one to my family for sure. So I'm half Mexican, and with that comes a little bit of cultural chaos when it comes to weddings and events and things like that. And that was never something that vibed with me. I like a plan, I like things to be on time, I like to know what's going on. And so, about the time that I got started in this was the time that it seemed like all of my cousins were getting married, having babies, doing
Nice.
all the things. And they were asking me for my help. They were like, Yuri, you like this stuff. Why don't you help us plan this wedding, plan this baby shower, plan all these things, right? And I quickly found out that I really enjoyed it and that I was understanding of the chaos and I could navigate through that. And I was able to put together timelines and work with vendors and things like that. And then that branched out to some of my friends wanting me to help them with their events. And then I niched down into weddings because that's just where my heart is. So we mostly do weddings and we do some quinceañeras and corporate events. So not so much like the baby showers and stuff. That was like for family only. But yeah, so that's how I got started into it.
And also, you are a board member of
I
an
am.
association. Like, do a humble
Yeah.
brag about that, just because
Thank you.
here's the thing. A lot of planners and event industry business owners do not know the value of being a part of associations and being a part of community. So please share yours because I'm
Yeah.
sure people will be inquisitive to know a little bit more.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm very fortunate to be in a city that is very collaborative and we're huge on community here. I'm not 100% sure if it's just like our location, if that's like part of that Southern hospitality thing. I'm not sure because I've talked to other people about it and they're like, we would never be able to have something like this in our city. But it is a group of, I want to say we're at like close to 30 wedding planners in the group, which for Houston really is like a very, very small number. But for us as an association, it's a good thing. You know, it's a good number for us. And there's an application process. Like there's obviously things that you have to meet for that in order to get voted in. We have an official board, and you get voted in to become a member, a planner member for this. And then we also get to vote on different vendors who apply as well. And so they have to have like good reviews. They have to be recommended by a planner who is a member. It's a whole process. So yeah, we do events every month, and they're mostly educational events and opportunities for all the industry to network, and then the planners to network together too. So we all help each other out a lot. We assist each other in different weddings. If something happens to a planner, we step in and we take on that role for them. It's just a really, really great community. And I've been fortunate enough to have a few different positions, and then this year I'm president. So
Yay!
it's been amazing. Yeah.
I'm glad you even mentioned that is also educational because
Mhm.
sometimes I feel as if in this industry. And the reason why it may be 30 isn't because there's not a lot of businesses out there. I just don't think that they're aware there are resources and communities that are able to help support them, and not also aware of how it can help them with growing and getting the educational
Mhm.
support they need to get to that next level. So I think it's
Absolutely.
great that you're doing what you're doing, that the association's doing what they're doing. And I recommend for anyone that's listening to this or watching the recording to look at what's in your neighborhood, because you don't want to
Mhm.
put yourself on an island. Even as being an entrepreneur, I know that we see some counterproductive comments, on social about
For
work for
sure.
yourself, this, that, other. But here's the thing: in events, you don't want to work by yourself, and you don't want
No.
to build by yourself.
Yeah.
Internal and external community is much so needed.
I think that, not I think I know for sure, if I did anything in my business that took me to the next level in my area, it was joining the association. So figuring out what those requirements were, I had something to work towards, because I think sometimes you get started in this and you're just like, where am I going? Like, I have to figure this out. Right. And so just to become a member, it gave me direction and what I needed to do. And I found my way into it, and it has really just been it's made all the difference. It's made all the difference. And I think there used to be, once upon a time, and maybe in some areas it's still like this, but there used to be cliquish culture and very like, gatekeeping and all that. And this is so the opposite of that. We have a group chat together. We're like, hey, I'm working with this vendor like next month. Has anybody heard of them? Oh, yeah, I worked with them last month. They were great, blah, 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 right? And just really help
Mhm.
each other out, or if we need assistance. So it's like great for me personally, because I can make some extra money that doesn't go directly into my business. It goes into
Yes.
my pocket by assisting. And then I also get to meet, go to venues I haven't had the opportunity to work at yet, or with vendors I haven't worked with yet. So it's amazing.
I'm glad that that came up because I think that is something that's very, very helpful. And even with this podcast, even with this chat, it's really to have the conversations that often we're not hearing. And when you can be in community, you're able to not feel as if what you're experiencing is this phenomenon. In reality, we're like, yeah, girl, I went through that too.
Yeah.
And that just happened last week. And it just
Yeah.
gives this ground to be able to not go and navigate through it, and someone may have already experienced it to be able to help you of navigating through it, which really leads us straight into our conversation about crisis management and how we navigate around this. As you mentioned, you've been in the industry for some time now, and I'm sure you've had your gamut of different things, but I wanted to know, for you in the beginning, do you feel as if the way you handle crises now is different than when you first started?
For sure. For sure. I don't think that I was ever, I don't think I've ever been in a position where I felt like so overwhelmed by something that I couldn't deal with it.
Mhm.
But I think more or less what I learned is either how to avoid those situations completely, or jump in front of them so they don't happen at all. Or just learned how to, let my team handle certain things. And, definitely, it's been a work in progress for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think And this is a part of our growth as entrepreneurs too. Is like we're
Mhm.
how in the beginning, maybe if so and so is running late or something didn't happen, I know my initial response is I either am elevated in emotion and I still find a solution now where I'm like I immediately go to the solution instead of
Mhm.
feeling the emotions that I used to experience first. I'm like, okay, oh, this didn't happen. Okay, here's the solution. Like,
Yeah.
so that's why I figured to ask because you've had some different experiences. So I would love to know if you had to think of a moment where something unexpected happened at a wedding you were planning. What was that thing? And then how did you actually handle it?
The first one that I remember was one of my first like real and gigs, I would say, like where someone I was contracted to do this wedding and it seemed that the officiant wasn't going to show up. And I was like, oh my God, what do we do? We're at a venue, we're not like at a church.
Hold on, if it, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
total freak out. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So, in that moment, I mean, what else can you do? Right. So, the first thing I thought of was like, okay, I need to see if there is somebody without freaking the bride out. Is there a family member or somebody here that I can talk to? Because maybe they have a minister in that's coming or somebody who is involved in their church or something like that, like somebody who can step in and do this. And then my next option was at that time was if not, I'm gonna have to look up something and I'm gonna have to get up there and do it myself. One of two
On the
things was
fly,
gonna
on the
happen.
fly.
Yes. So I started kind of asking around and seeing by that time, I think we didn't end up having to do anything because the officiant did end up showing up. They were just very late. And so that was the first big one that I can remember thinking. And then right after that, I got ordained because I was
You're
like,
like, won't have this will never happen
I was like,
again.
this will literally never happen again. And so it is something that we do now. Like, it's like we offer it separately. It's like you get one or the other, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got ordained after that. I got all my licenses after that. We're TABC certified. I've had to step in for like bartenders. I mean, there's just different things like that in the moment you don't have another option. It's like I have to figure out how to do, both of these things like now. So,
No, but I love that you shared that. And then you also gave a few other examples of some challenges that can happen. And I would
yeah.
love, like, with your experience, your own personal experiences, or just with, friendships and things you've heard, what would you say are what are the most common event day challenges that wedding planners can face? And maybe some tips that you can share to help them with facing them.
Yeah, I think a lot of them, I mean, gosh, it's like, how do you do this without throwing anyone like vendor under
Under
the
the
bus,
bus.
right? But definitely not what I'm trying to do. But your challenges could be an array of things. I know there's a lot of things that we've dealt with. We've had DJs that were booked by the mom where we had nothing to do with it. And it was just a very like basic contract because we do require that they upload all their contracts into their drive for us. And it never occurred to me, and this was a few years back, but like it never occurred to me to look up if they emceed as well. And apparently that was a separate service that he was not paid for. And so he refused to MC the wedding. And he would only play music. So thankfully, we had an amazing best man who was very charismatic, who had no problem getting on the mic. And so he introduced, the entire wedding party and then announce what happened and I would just be like, okay, next say this, things like that. So a lot of times it's just it most of the time I feel like it could be vendor related if they're vendors that we've never worked with before. Because obviously we try to like send out as much information as possible and try to get a hold of people. But things happen. And so it's just we build our timelines with extra time for things to happen. So I always tell my couples, like, it seems like there's a lot in there, or it seems like there's a long time, but I'm like, this is not going to make sense to you, but everything will either be, it's enough time to run 10 minutes behind and then catch back up, or we'll be ahead and then we can slow down some things. It's all built to kind of like even itself out.
But I'm glad that you said that because, like, Some people that are listening right now probably are planners that haven't even thought to get contracts from people when individuals are even booked outside of them, or
Yeah.
even making sure that they have insurance. Because again, depending on the states that you live in, some of it may be a lot more looser than others.
Yeah.
Some may be really strict, and you'd want to make sure that if you are on the planner side or if you are on the venue side, that you're doing what you need to do so that you're not on the day having to figure it out. And one of the things I always say to people that are in industry is like, I love that we are able to figure things out on the fly. However, I'd rather just not have to. I'd rather know
Right.
it's like this is what's needed, making sure in advance. And granted, no one's perfect because this is a very human process and a very human service. But when you're listening, for any of the listeners, when you're listening to this is not from judgment. This is from a space of love and just sharing so that you can think about how you're currently doing what you're doing so that you can make it smoother. So, as she shared, we don't want to have to worry about the officiant showing up because I have my certification. I don't want to have to worry about a bartender because here's the thing. I've had it where caterer, and granted, I am in a corporate space. I had a caterer on the day of an event pass out at the store
Yeah.
and was rushed to the hospital. And you're going at like things are going to happen. People are going to get into car accidents or things happen
Things
because
happen.
it's human. So it's like you have to almost be prepared just in case anything does occur and thinking to yourself, I hope to not have to use this. However, if I do, that is great. And learning how to stay calm while we're going through all of these variables on a day to day basis.
It's wild when you think about it because I mean so many stories are like coming to my mind now, you know. One time I was in Wisconsin and I was assisting another planner for her wedding. So I went with her to go and do this gorgeous tinted wedding at the in the Teton Mountains.
Mm,
Not Wisconsin, Wyoming. Okay,
okay.
see? Someone was going to end up correcting me on that. It was in Wyoming. So they wanted so anyway, so it was a beautiful tented wedding. Whenever you're dealing in like Jackson Hole, for example, nothing is like local. It's like we had to
Mm,
get things from like Denver. We had to bring things in from, I think the tent came from like everything was from a different state, it seems like.
yeah.
So in the process of them setting up the tent, one of the only girl on their team ended up having a seizure while they were like setting up. And the guys did not know what to do. They just didn't even know what to do. So thankfully we were there. We just happened to be there. And so we were able to help her out, you know, and we're like, you
Yeah.
need to take her to the hospital. And thankfully everything got set up. But it's like in that moment, I almost wonder, I'm like, had myself and the other planner not been there, what would they have done? You
Yeah.
know, and some people just don't know how to navigate these situations or they don't know what to do in those moments.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of it for planners, especially, it just all kind of falls on us. And so
Hmm.
you have to know and understand, like in the moment, it's almost like compartmentalizing and
Yeah.
being able to say, okay, right now, this is my work hat is that I have to take care of this no matter what, and then
Hmm.
move on from there. And then, okay, we're on to the next thing. There is no like, I'm going to go cry for 10 minutes like I would in like my regular life, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I need to schedule my panic attack for, like, later. It's not gonna happen right now. Yeah, it's crazy.
But it's so funny. It's funny. Okay, so anyone that's been in the industry for a while, like, it's funny because this is like real life. Like I had the next question I had is like, how do you stay calm and make quick decisions when things are going wrong? That's as much as we may have things planned, no one expects to have someone have a seizure. We're not expecting for, and the thing is that when we have vendors that are involved, and I'll talk more about this in vendor management, if
Mhm.
we're working with someone new, everyone has different beliefs on time and proper communication. Some people are like, it's late.
Yeah,
However, I'm still on my way. I'm going to get there when I get there. Like, no, but it's
yeah,
still while we're in the middle of, hey, there's this challenge, something's not right. We still have to be able to stay calm. So, like for
yes.
you, how do you go about staying calm when you are in these types of moments?
Yeah, gosh, I don't One thing that I have to say is you have to mentally be right when you are walking into an event.
Yeah.
Okay. There's things that go on in your personal life all the time. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves. It's not that we're not human. It's not that you have the right to like feel feelings, right? I'm a Cancer. I have tons of feelings. Like, so it's like one of my pet peeves is like they're going through something and they're bringing that into a wedding and be like,
Yeah.
like my XYZ, whatever is going on with them. I've had employees who are no longer with me who were like going through breakups and they like literally just could not handle
Mm.
being in this space. And while I'm empathetic of that, and it's like this is still a job. We have clients, we have
Yeah.
vendors that we're working with. It's like when you go clock in for work, it's the same thing. It's like you're
Yeah.
clocking in, you're making money. It's like you're making money, but you're providing a service too. So I
Yeah.
just feel like there's so much more involved in it. And so if you know that you have something going on, maybe you got to figure out how to get that right before you walk into this because you're about to have 100 different people literally asking you, where do I sit? Even though there's a seating chart.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm somebody who can get overstimulated when I have like people touching me or like coming at me in all directions.
Yeah.
That is not an option. It's like I have to know, like, basically already be prepared for that to happen
Yes.
and make sure like, okay, let me make sure I get enough protein in my breakfast. Let me make
Uh-huh.
sure I always have like my water with me, because I know I'm going to get dehydrated. Let me make sure I'm wearing the right shoes. There's so
Yeah.
many different things that I have to like checkpoint with myself and check in with myself before I can go serve someone else. And so I think that for me personally is the best way I know to stay calm in these situations is one, just expect that something's going to happen because something is going to happen. It could be little, it
Yes.
could be big, we don't know, but something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then just making sure that my needs are met
Yeah.
before walking into a wedding space.
I think that that was perfectly answered because it's not this perfect, like everything's going to be amazing. No, things will happen. Sometimes it might be something small, sometimes it may be something big. And if it happens, it's like, how do you keep yourself centered?
Mhm.
Especially because the thing is that if you freak out, your client's going to then freak out. And then you have other people's personalities you're having to navigate through in this type of chaos. And one question I'm curious, especially coming from the wedding space, would you say that a lot of the changes or challenges can sometimes be vendor based, or can it mostly even be on the client, or if it's the
Yeah.
venue? Where are you finding that most of the
Yeah.
challenges may sometimes reside?
There's definitely phases throughout my career in this that I've noticed. I think in the beginning, it was definitely vendor challenged based because I was booking less expensive weddings, if you will, or like
Yeah.
budget weddings. My pricing obviously like reflected that. And so I wasn't working with, they were either beginners or they were just on the lower end financially. There's nothing wrong with that, but it definitely makes a difference. I think I can definitely tell now, being where we're at in our pricing and having the experience that we have now. Also, again, being a part of the association, I've met and networked with a lot of the vendors that I use today. And so we're
Yeah.
pretty much on repeat with our vendors and who's on
Yeah.
our preferred vendor list. Then I think our next phase was couples because we said yes to everything. And
Oh,
now we know what those red flags look like in
yeah.
clients. And so we will say no now to a client where before it was just like, yes, 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 give me everybody.
Yeah.
So we moved away from that. I feel like I mean, I can count on one hand the clients that we didn't mesh well with or that didn't end up working out. And then now I would say, if anything, it's like completely left field family member, family dynamics, drama, things like that, that we're just like, there's nothing that we can do about that. We do our best to try to like ask our clients when we do like a final details meeting with them and while we're putting their timelines together, we say, is there a family member that we need to know about? Or is there like an ex coming? Is there like are there any family
Yeah.
dynamics that we need to be aware of? A stepmom who's, not the nicest or things like that. An uncle that likes to drink too much. Like we will literally throw out examples and we're like, this, like, It's not crap talking. It's just we want to be able to be aware of it so we know ahead
Mhm.
of time and we can address it or make sure like if we see something happening, we can navigate that. We know what to do. But if we're just, so yeah, so typically if it is anything, it's going to be like an overbearing aunt who's like trying to take over or something like
And then you
that.
have to put them on the other side of the table and making sure you
You
don't sit
know,
so and so next to so and so.
I know.
I can only imagine. I mean, because honestly, when the day I do get married, I will likely elope.
I feel like I think I hear almost all of my couples say that at least once. They're like, "We should have just eloped," and then they get there and they're perfectly fine. It's a lot and it's overwhelming, especially when they're just management clients because they've
Yes,
taken on all the work on themselves. I don't think I have ever heard any like partial or full planning client ever say that, but it's understandable. But it's yeah, those
I
family
love a good
dynamics can trip
wedding.
you up.
I love a good wedding, but I legitimately have at least three different cultures
Yeah,
that I would have to navigate through, and just for my own personal peace
for my sanity.
and my sanity. And
Yep.
because and here's the thing too, I'm sure that even with family member, and for me, mine isn't because my family is challenging. It's just that I'm the common denominator to the culture. So it's then why does so and so, and like, well, in that culture they're very upfront about how they feel, and this one they're used to being this way. Everyone has different ways, even though every and I think too, even with the weddings and things like that, is that everyone thinks that they're doing the best, like they're not intentionally doing. I mean, of course you can have some family members that are intentionally doing things to
Yeah.
destroy the day, but everyone's thinking that they have your best interest at heart as that
Mhm.
bride. And I think that that's possibly even great to know, like, what are some of these potential challenges we're going to have with different family members, because I can't foresee someone unless they just really don't like the union.
Yeah.
It's just that they're trying to do their best, or they think the way that they should be doing it is the best. So it's not because they're doing it out of malice. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So, like, as that planner, when you know certain quirks about a person, that it allows
Mhm.
for you to help with setting up an environment to kind of do like herding or crowd control of certain
Yeah.
behavior, so it doesn't take away from the person that's trying to have this special day.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing to see the dynamics of everything. Where I feel like we're also the first to get blamed for things like as
Yes.
planners. Because while we are managing an entire event, we did not pick the table that you sit at, Aunt Susan. That is, they put you at 22. I'm sorry, I don't know. This is just what I have on my list. I don't know who you are, and things like that. And so it's like, there's definitely those extra moments, I don't know. I think when you were bringing up cultures, and that is definitely something that I feel like happens a lot more like in cultures. There's a lot more, not a lot more, maybe that wasn't the right word, but there's a different level of respect for like elders and like things like
Yes.
that. And then, and so you have to like tiptoe around certain things. I would be able to walk into one culture's wedding and be like, you listen to me today. I'm in
Yeah.
charge. And I can go in with that attitude and that's fine. I could
Hmm.
not do that in other cultures. They would be like,
Yes.
and who the hell are you? you know? So knowing and
Exactly.
understanding that, yeah.
Exactly. That's why I was like, no. Like,
Yeah.
I because I remember one time I was dating someone. The person I'm dating now is American, but I remember I was dating someone else, and I told them, based off of the dynamics of that, I'm like, I would probably just say, "What? Tell me that these things are paid for, and I show up." Because just the dynamics of it is like all of these other people have a say. So why do I need to even be there? I mean, like, why do I even need to be in these meetings
Right.
if you're pretty much going to make all the decisions anyway? But I think
Yeah.
too, it's just understanding that. So even for planners, like understanding that different cultures, there are going to be different things. So sometimes it may be, even when we may find that a client is challenging, it may not all, I mean, yes, there are some people we automatically know that is a red flag. And then also too,
Yeah.
in all fairness, if you feel as if communication styles or certain things like that are not a good fit, I think it's better to attack those earlier, instead
Right.
of having a long suffering throughout the whole planning process.
Right.
Because again, these are things that people are not doing intentionally, but also understanding as a business owner, you have the ability to choose, like, who do I really want to work with?
Absolutely.
Because I just feel like we have a lot more freedom. And I'm glad that you did share about vendors in the beginning, like in the beginning, because honestly, that's where I feel that can be one of the roadblocks that event planners face, even event venues, because I find that some venues are starting to get into having their own vendor management, is what's
Yeah.
your approach to handling difficult vendors or last minute cancellations?
Thankfully, I haven't had any last minute. Have I had last minute cancellations? I have canceled a vendor last minute because it was too much, and I was telling my client, I was like, just get rid of them because we're
Mm,
just going to deal with this on the day of, and then what are we going to do? And
mm,
so I haven't had any last minute cancellations yet. This is not wood, but we're gonna knock it. I mean, I've had people be late. I had a caterer. This was one of my recent weddings. Caterer was like a family friend, but they were like a legit business. They were a legit caterer. We don't do frienders. It's in our contract, so we
yes.
don't do that. But this was like a legit business. But she called me on the day of to ask me what time everything started, and
Hold
so
on. Hold on. Repeat.
I was like, girl, what do you mean? I've talked to you like 3 times on the phone. I've sent the timeline. Like, we always send it at least twice. Like, it was, anyways. So, moments like that, there's sometimes like we have lead coordinators or lead planners on site, and then we have assistants.
Mhm.
Um, it's gotten to a point now where like that's an assistant job. I need you, like, you need to be keeping track. So our girls are trained to be keeping track of everything on the timeline. And if you see that it's 2 p.m. and so the DJ was supposed to be here all ready to set up, then we need to be on the phone. Like, we have like a 5 to 10 minute grace period because I don't want to be that stereotypical planner that's like, you're a minute late. Like that, I don't vibe well with that. I don't want to work with people like that either. Like, they could be in the parking lot, or 5 minutes is like not going to make a difference in the timeline that I set up, you know?
Yeah.
So we like to give them like 5 to 10 minutes grace period to be like, okay, let's see if they show up any second now. And then if
Yeah.
not, then the assistant needs to be on the phone finding out where they are. But that's really the best way that I could think that we handle that. It's been a long time since I've just had a really like rude vendor.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't know who you're getting and
But I
what
think
you were going to say something.
I think you also shared a way that you navigate it. You have your preferred vendor list. And I'm finding, and I would love to hear your perspective. I'm finding that even in venues, like if you can't bring anyone into our place that's not one of those individuals, are you finding that planners are also having the same approach? Like, these are the individuals that you can use if we're
Mhm.
going to have this relationship. I mean, I don't know, again, because I'm not in that
Yeah.
world, but are you, I feel like a way that you have help with getting over that first chapter is because now you're like, okay, these are the people that I prefer.
Yeah.
Choose one compared to having to shop around. And honestly, that is, if you're not a planner and you're listening to it, I always recommend for vendors, pitch yourself to planners because we
Mhm.
want to have solid relationships with people. The last thing I want to do is every event to have to find someone that does X, Y, and Z service. And if you
Yeah.
nurture that relationship, just how she's gotten over that section where there was breakdowns, because she probably has and you can share more, it's like you've probably have this rapport now, Keri, that
Mhm.
it's like I can trust I can send if we're running late, I'm probably gonna, out of respect of our relationship, I'm going to actually tell you in
Yeah.
advance that I'm running a little late compared to someone that's brand new that doesn't know what you prefer in that work
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge I would say now with vendors, or the hurdles that we're having to get over, are going to be the all-inclusive venues. Just point blank period. I think there's going
Okay.
to be a single vendor, I mean, as well, a single planner for sure that wouldn't agree with me in like our area. What ends up happening is these venues, they have like their in-house everything's, right? But then you're
Mm,
allowed to bring in your own coordinator. So what has ended up happening is that it seems these vendors are just really comfortable with getting the business, and this is where they are now. And so there is a lack of communication with the coordinator that's coming in, or there's a lack of professionalism, it seems like. So those
okay.
can be a little trickier. We definitely have to choose carefully on those events that we take, just depending, on where it is and who they have there. But I would say
Yeah.
that would probably be our biggest challenge right now. But other than that, I think you're right. I mean, we've just created really good relationships with the vendors that we have now. So it's really just not so much an issue for us anymore.
Because once you find the right one, it's hard. Like, not hard. It's hard. What I'll say is hard to let them go. Like, I've had a
Yeah.
few because I've been doing what I do now for about 15 years. And some people, especially due to the pandemic, especially like my caterers and stuff, a lot of them had to transition back into working at restaurants and things like that. And just because of cost of living changes and all that other stuff, and they realize, yeah, it's not necessarily ideal to be in a restaurant. However, the
Yeah.
stability, because they did the grind for a while and they're like, you know what, I just rather have this schedule and they can make money and it's not the running around of feast and famine as a caterer. So, and that's just fine. But I
Uh-huh.
did kind of like cry inside. I was like, I get it, but you have to find someone, and I think it's important for us to have those relationships. I'm sure though, with every year there's something that's changing as far as industries, as far as expectations, as far as just trends. I
Uh-huh.
do still feel that that can potentially lead to managing someone now seeing X design on Pinterest and you've already mocked up and you've created this concept and we think like, oh, we're doing now is just waiting for the big day. How do you navigate when clients are indecisive and or they start to make changes after everything's been finalized?
Gosh, I feel like we've just gotten to a point. I think what the main thing is that your onboarding process of these clients is so vital. I think your consultation process and then your onboarding process, you're setting the tone within those first two meetings that you have with them for how things are going to be until you have their event, right?
Yes.
Something that I love that we have, so somebody else on our team does the onboarding process. We have two different ladies that are the ones that take care of the onboarding. And so they go through the welcome packet, they go through their drive and everything that we give them. But one of the things that we have created is a what we will do list and what we will do not list. And
Mm,
so I tell them if you run out of time to talk about anything, you make sure that you talk because
yes.
I never want to set this expectation that we are decorators and that we are going to do all these things for that. We're not doing any, like, it's not that we won't do it. It's either that it's a liability, we don't have the capacity, or it's simply just not our job. And so,
Yeah.
if you want us to be able to actually manage your vendors and manage your event and make sure this timeline stays on time, then I can't be climbing, 10-foot ladders to get flowers
Yeah.
down for you,
Yeah.
and things like that. Right. So,
Yeah.
I think that by setting those boundaries ahead of time, I love a boundary. I love it. And
Yeah.
I will never tell a client like, no, we don't do that. I will always explain, here's why we don't focus on that. This is
Mm,
why you're hiring us for this reason. This is what you want us here for. Now, if you want extra staff, we can add that to your invoice. Like we can add those things for you. But if you want us to just come in and essentially like coordinate your event, this is what we have to do. So I think we really don't have a whole lot of issues with it anymore. But just because, like I said, we have a separate onboarding process that they go through that explains exactly what we're going to do. And it's also going to explain what we don't do, like fold 200 napkins and things like
I,
that.
I love that you say that and you share that because that actually leads into my next question is what tools or systems do you use to stay organized and to prevent chaos on the big day.
Yeah, so having a team, I cannot say this enough. Having hired people and having employees and having a team, my God, like what a huge help because doing this all by yourself is just pure insanity. I don't know how I was ever navigating this before. I had systems in play, yes, but we have departments, and it's really a selling point for us because if I go on vacation or if I'm at like a speaking event or something like that, you're not going to be able to get a hold of me. But I
Yeah.
do have this whole team that is fully aware of your entire wedding, right?
Yeah.
That can answer any questions that you have or whatever your event is, right? You have
Yeah.
someone that you can speak to. So we try to make sure that they establish they're not just clinging on to one person. So they
No.
might initially talk to me during the sales process of it, but once they go into onboarding, then they'll talk to like Carly, and then at some point Tiffany might, answer a question for
Right.
them. So they're getting to know different people on the team, and we're creating relationships with everyone on the team until they're assigned their actual planner, when their services start. So
Yeah.
I think that's been a huge, huge help.
I love that. And I feel that we've covered a lot of different scenarios and things for people to start considering or just leaning into inside of their business. But I would love for you to share what would be one tip you would want to be able to give to a listener when it comes to being able to effectively manage crises at their events.
Love that. Well, first and foremost, don't think that you need to give them an answer right then and there. You take the time. Like, are we supposed to have all the answers? I mean, sure, technically, I guess we are, but sometimes someone's going to stump you or you're not going to know how to handle it in that moment. So
Yeah.
just take a breath, take a moment, and let them know. Communication is key. Let them know, be
Yeah.
like, hey, look, I've never dealt with this before. Give me like 2 minutes to think about this and figure this out and let me get back to you,
Yeah.
or pull one of your team members because sometimes I'm one of those people. Sometimes I just need to like talk things out. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that sounds stupid. Let me not do that, And
Yeah.
I just need like a sounding board. So I think just taking time and not feeling the pressure of like, I have to give people an answer right now. We do need to act fast, but we need to act effectively and efficiently. And so
Yeah.
whatever way you need to do that, that's how you do that. Make sure you do that. So, and also implement those things. Everything is a lesson. We've changed
Yeah.
our contracts because of different situations. We've added things to our onboarding. That do and do not list was created
Yeah.
for a reason, and again, communication is key. Like pour into your onboarding process, make sure both of them are there, the bride and the groom, or whoever the two clients are, whoever the couple is, like make sure they're both there, or anybody else who is like making decisions that day on their behalf. Just again, communication is key. And then, of course, making sure that you're in a place day of, like, eat your breakfast. Don't come on like two Red Bulls and a cup of coffee. Have snacks with you. I can't tell. I mean, and that's just how we do things, right? It's like almost
Yeah.
like a badge of honor. It's like all I've had is coffee today, girl. That is not good. Like I'm still guilty of it sometimes, but I will have beef jerky in my bag or like something that I know. So just making sure that you are healthy the day of to be able to take on these things because something's going to happen. So,
Well, I totally appreciate you sharing. And I know that people were able to get at least one good tip to kind of think about how to start making changes inside of their business. For people that want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to follow and connect you?
yeah, so we have two Instagrams. There's going to be our regular event planning one, which is going to be at timeless_rose_events. And then we also have our content creation, which is just at Timeless Rose Content altogether. And then, of course, you can visit our website at timelessroseevents.com. And literally all of my information is on the website, on the Instagram, it's everywhere.
And I'll make sure to put it in the show notes. And thank you so very much for taking the time to talk with me today
Thank you.
and to be able to pour into the audience.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.